Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. Welcome back to another episode, a live episode if you're watching this at approximately 4:30 New York City time of Epic Drone Show. If you're not watching this live, obviously you can watch this episode and other episodes on epicdroneshow.com. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And got a lot, and I mean a ton of excitement today. And it's centered around the new DJI Spark. And if you're not familiar with the DJI Spark, and by the way, mine has shipped, and mine should be here within a few days, and I'll have the unboxing video, the field test video, the reviews, the question and answer, you name it, it's all going to be here for the DJI Spark. What makes the DJI Spark so exciting is the size. Obviously, it will be the smallest and lightest drone that DJI has offered. What makes Spark a little bit disappointing without having my hands on mine yet is the absence of 4K video. It does top out at 1080p, which obviously is still high definition, but it's not ultra high definition. And if you're a video snob like I am, you've probably gotten used to watching 4K Ultra HD 3840 by 2160 resolution, and to step back to a 1920 by 1080 resolution, which is HD, which is what the Spark will create, it's kind of a step backwards. Also, the Spark does have a 2-axis gimbal instead of a 3-axis gimbal. And there's Sean Coonery, the big Maine Coon cat in the studio. So it's a situation where we don't know yet, without having our hands on the Spark, we don't know yet how well or how poorly it will perform. But, you know, based upon my track record with DJI, I have a great degree of confidence that the DJI Spark will impress. And even if it's not the goose's feather and the greatest new thing, at least it will signal where DJI's technology is heading next. And that's what's so important about the Spark. Most importantly, it's going to be fun, man. Getting out in the field, playing with it, seeing what it does. I am stoked, and I'm hoping that it arrives. I'm cautiously optimistic that it'll arrive by Saturday. Worst case scenario, it may be Monday, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed, my toes crossed, my hairs crossed. Sean Coonery is keeping his paws crossed because we want the Spark as soon as possible. So if you haven't ordered the Spark yet, again, you can check out epicdroneshow.com. I've got the Spark there, you know, the various bundles. You can get the Spark by itself or you can get the bundle, and I'll be adding a lot more to that soon. John G says, I'm on my way to Cape Cod. Cape Cod, man, awesome seafood. That should be epic. And ProStorm says, I am from Hungary, and that's very cool. And I'll say I am hungry. I got to eat something. I think I taste Mexican food and margaritas. That's what I'm in the mood for. Smitty's City says, just received my notification. Says it'll arrive on Monday. Woo! Man, that's awesome. Looks like a lot of us are probably going to be getting these Sparks around the same time. And I mean, that's the focal point for today's show is what are you most excited about from the DJI Spark? I mean, obviously, us normal folks probably haven't received the Spark yet. You know, we're not privy to a pre-release model or anything like that. So what are your expectations from the retail version, the actual Spark that you go out and buy? What do you expect from it from a positive perspective? And what are your concerns? You know, I mentioned my concerns being there's no 4K video. There's only a 2-axis gimbal. What are y'all's concerns? Looking forward to seeing your videos on the Spark, says Jamie. Thanks, man. I'm looking forward to filming them. So it's let's see, I just had something come in here. So yeah, I mean, we ought to have, and what's going to be interesting when this Spark comes out, it's inevitable that, you know, we're getting to that time of year where competitors or would-be competitors will try to probably release their response to the Spark. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of some of the other drone companies and how aggressively they try to bring their technologies to the playing field. Because ultimately, with it being almost July, the Christmas holiday is not that far away when you think about it. I mean, if you're designing technology, if you're mass producing technology, and then you're trying to bring technology to market in a reasonable quantity before the holidays, there's not a lot of time, man. John G says, I hope I can fly it inside a lot better than the Mavic. And that's a great point about the Spark, because, that smaller size, flying it indoors in a safe location may be more easily doable. Also, outdoors in tighter spots, if you like to, in a safe location, like to be risky, like I am, and fly around tree branches and that sort of thing, it may be easier to do with the Spark, because the smaller size means that, in theory, it should be able to fly in tighter spots. Now, does a smaller size mean less stable flight? That's an unknown, because even if it's smaller, if there's a lot of, and that's one of the tests I'm excited to do in the field as soon as I get my Spark, is to see how much it moves around when it's hovering. So in a stationary hover, how much does it move around? Is it pretty still like a tripod? I mean, if you've used a DJI Phantom or a DJI Mavic Pro, when it's hovering, it's staying in a pretty tight spot. Now, there are some third-party drones where you'll notice that if they're hovering, they'll drift quite a bit, and that'll be an interesting test. John says he's worried about the wind. That's one of my primary concerns with the Spark as well. Is how can something so small and something so lightweight deal with the wind? And without having my Spark yet, remaining optimistic that it should arrive Saturday or Monday, without having my Spark in my hands yet, just by looking at what I've been able to see online, it seems that the battery is somewhat large, and I'm thinking that the battery and some other components of the Spark may make it a little bit heavier, and by having a little bit more weight to it, it may be able to better handle the wind. But again, to be tested. At this point in time, it's all speculation, and it's unfair to believe any videos that we may have seen online at this point in time, because you shouldn't judge the performance of a production product based upon pre-release versions of that product. And Sorover says, any way to get a discount on the Spark? Just sold me DJI Phantom 3 Advanced to get the Spark. Well, man, I don't know about discounts, but I do know if you go to epicdroneshow.com, I've got links to, and I keep them updated, but links to various deals that are posted. So that, you never know. I mean, there may be something pop up, but everything that I find, I post on epicdroneshow.com. So check it out. John says, did you make a waterproof case for the Spark yet? That is on my to-do list, actually, and I've got several cases, and I've got one right here behind me. This is what I carry my Sony A7R2 in, but what I'm thinking is that something large enough to carry the A7R2, I may even be able to go smaller with the DJI Spark. So one of my first missions, and you know me well, you know that I love a waterproof and ruggedized case. And one of my first projects once I receive the Spark will be to identify the optimal case that's waterproof and ruggedized for carrying the Spark, because I don't want this thing I don't want it to sink. I'm taking it out on the water and I drop it. I want it to float. If it rains, I want it to stay dry. I want to take care of it. So that's on the to-do list for sure. So stay tuned for my DJI Spark waterproof case video. That'll be among some of my first videos. Yeah, great question. So, yeah, I mean, we've got, and Sean Coonery is excited. You can see him back there walking around. Hey, Sean Coonery, come up here. Come talk to your fans. We're talking about drones. You know, fly a drone? Yeah? Yep, he said he wants to fly a drone. Come on up. Join the live show. There you go. Oh, enormous. Yep. So that's Sean Coonery, the enormous Maine Coon cat, in the studio. He said he will be excited about the Spark because he said the Spark is a fraction of the size of him. He said probably maybe even 1/6 the size of Sean Coonery. I mean, that just shows you how small the Spark is and how enormous Sean Coonery, the Maine Coon cat, is. Hey, Sean Coonery, don't knock my tripods over. He does have a personal tendency to disrupt camera alignment. So if my camera gets knocked around or whatever. Yes, the DJI Spark does have a different controller. One of the biggest visual differences with the Spark controller is that if you're familiar with the Mavic Pro controller, it's got a little display on the controller. The Spark controller does not. The Spark controller doesn't have a screen, so your screen would be in my case, I'm going to use the iPod Touch model that I use, and you can find this on epicdroneshow.com. So this is the model of iPod Touch that I use. I like the iPod. Sean Cooner, you're going to have to move off camera for a second. I like the iPod Touch because it's small, lightweight, and it's got good battery life. And ultimately, I'm flying line of sight to be safe and responsible. So the only thing I'm using my device for is to confirm camera alignment and to change settings if I need to within the DJI Go app. So it works perfect for me, and it's small, lightweight, easy to travel with. Fruitful Woman Pox says, off topic, but does Sean Coonery like to swim? Sean Coonery does like water. He's never been swimming. Actually, that's it's unusual for cats to like to swim, but one of the unusual traits of a Maine Coon cat is enjoying water. So that may be an upcoming video. I may take him out in the woods and have him walk around on a leash and see what he thinks about water. Soarover says, will an Android controller work on the Spark? An Android phone controller. I haven't used an Android. I used an Android device, an Android tablet a while back with, I think it was the DJI Phantom. I forget which model, but I haven't used, obviously I hadn't even gotten the Spark yet, so I don't know. Check, you're getting all over my camera. Watch out. Let's see. Smitty's City says, certainly will not replace my Phantom 4, but it's not meant to. Given the small size and quick setup, my goal is to have it more readily available for those quick shots you normally would have missed. And you couldn't have said it better, because, this is not, I would compare, so for example, right here when you're looking at not drones, not flying cameras, but regular cameras, this thing right here is a beast. This is a Sony Alpha, Sony A7R2. This is an animal. You put a Zeiss lens on it. I got a Zeiss Batis 85 on it right now. This thing is an animal. So this is like, in my opinion, this would be like a DJI Phantom 4 Pro. And then you've got the Mavic Pro. It's kind of like let's just say an iPhone 6S Plus or an iPhone 7. It's got a good camera. It's got 4K, but it's still, not top of the line. And then you got your DJI Spark, and it's kind of like an iPod Touch. Not as good as the iPhone. This one right here doesn't even do 4K, but it's more portable. So, from that perspective, I think that the market's reaction to the Spark will likely be overwhelmingly positive, because it'll, like you were saying, for professionals, it will fill that gap of not having something that's ultra portable. Something that, you may otherwise not even think about taking a drone to that location. But since it's so small and so lightweight, why not throw it in your pocket? Why not throw it in your backpack with other stuff? And in that way, you've got it, and you can capture something, aerial video and or photo, that you otherwise would be unable to if you didn't have your drone. And I mean, it doesn't make sense. Even a DJI Phantom. DJI Phantoms are pretty big. I mean, they're doable, they're portable, but they're not optimal. Traveling with a DJI Phantom is not optimal. But traveling with a John, check out the specs on the Epic Drone Show, but off the top of my head, I think the Spark may be limited to 1080p 30. I think it is. Actually, let me pull that up really quick. I'm pulling that information up because that was one of the things that that we had. So check out. So there's the link to the Spark right there. And as far as specs are concerned, let me load this up. Let's see, specs. I'm going to get to the details here. It's got a, let's see. Trying to find that. I saw that detail somewhere. Well, okay, well, I'm going to come back to the live show here. So, now B. Hendo says, I feel I'll be able to create more social media posts and YouTube videos after having the Spark more portable. Without a doubt, more portable, more lightweight, and something that's not, I think the perception, people that unfortunately have a negative opinion of drones, I think when they see the Spark, they'll think, oh, that's cool, that's small, that looks like a toy. Now, obviously, we know it's not a toy as hobbyists because we're safe and responsible and we want to promote the hobby in as positive a way as possible, but I think that'll be an advantage as well. Fruipel says, I currently have a Phantom 4, but it is a replacement from DJI since my original had airframe cracking. Ouch. I'm really hoping the Phantom 4 series replacement, Phantom 5, will be a Mavic Pro design, but large enough to support a great camera. It should also be large enough to be relatively stable, better than a Mavic Pro. John says, Maine has a lot of dead zones. Yeah, Maine. And there's a big Maine Coon cat, Sean Coonery. He said, I'll tell you all about Maine. He said, yeah, there's a lot of spots where you can't get service. Frugal says, I hate the cheapo plastic used in the Phantom 4 airframe, and I'm hoping the replacement will be far more durable. I think you made some great points. I think the ideal drone, and I hope this is where DJI is going, whether they call it a Phantom 5, maybe they release a Phantom 5 and a Mavic Pro 2, but I think it's definitely going to need the stability as good or better than Phantom 4. And it's definitely going to need the camera quality as good or better than Phantom 4. So I think they've learned with the market's reaction to Mavic Pro that they've created a winning formula. But the people that have previously flown the Phantom 3 Pro and the Phantom 4 and the Phantom 4 Pro, they know that the video quality and camera quality of the Phantom is still greatly superior to the Mavic Pro. But if you have not used a Phantom and you use the Mavic Pro's camera, you'll probably be blown away because it is incredibly great. But, yeah, that'll be an area for improvement. B. Hendo says, I'm concerned about the Helix Smart technology might be too big to use in certain environments. Hope you're able to edit the range and speed of quick shot maneuvers. Frugal says, yep, the Mavic Pro Spark design with camera forward and top or bottom rear mounted battery seems to be like the ticket. And what about a drone with 360 degree spherical? I mean, if you watched the recent Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, you know that Apple is really gunning for the editing of VR content, 360 degree spherical content. So wouldn't it make sense if big players like DJI would become somewhat early adopters of quality, and emphasis upon quality, 360 degree spherical cameras? Imagine flying a drone. You got a spherical camera on it. And when you download that footage, then you're able to rewatch that previously flown flight in 360 degrees. So in other words, it would be as if you were in the cockpit and you could watch it all forward. You could look around in all directions, or however you choose to do it. I agree, certain scenarios, a video that's not a 360 spherical video is best. It's easiest to watch. The same with 3D. Remember, if you've ever watched a 3D movie, 3D is cool, but it's not something that one would probably want to watch every time they flick on the TV, because it's not as comfortable. I mean, there's something about just a standard video that's good. But with that said, I think from a social media perspective, when you look at VR content that's posted on Facebook, YouTube, etc., and you have that functionality, you're able to move your phone around as if you're in that environment. It's got a cool factor to it. So from that perspective, I think there's value in VR. But again, I don't know. Let's see. And then John says, isn't it going to do an update? Isn't DJI going to do an update to drones so it can't go higher than 400 feet? I'm not sure. I know that I never fly over 400, just because that's a recreational ceiling in most areas. But not sure about that. Now, Frugal says, personally, I'm not interested in a 360 degree camera, but I'm not against it. Also, not personally for 360 gimbal. Cool. Jack, the Spark released today, and you can go to epicdroneshow.com. I've got links to the Spark, and obviously the other drones too. Frugal says 3D TV didn't take off like vendors thought. Definitely not. With that said, I've got a 4K smart TV, and I got a good deal on it, so it's also a 3D TV, but it didn't add much to the price tag. And I've watched maybe 3 movies in 3D, and one of them was I forget what it was. It was a Matt Damon movie on Mars. Was it The Martian or something? But it was in 3D, and it was actually really cool. Some of the effects are really cool, but yeah, 3D never really took off. And I mean, even technologies like Oculus Rift, that never really took off. I don't think people want to feel confined. I mean, when you're trying to relax, do you really want to have a headset on your head? Do you really want to have to wear glasses? I mean, how much is too much? How much can one take before it becomes informational overload? I mean, ultimately, these are hobbies that should promote relaxation, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case with some of these technologies. Any thoughts? B. Hendo says, any thoughts or concerns of the Spark using Wi-Fi? Do you think it's improved transmission at all since the Phantom 3 standard or Phantom 3 4K? Well, I will tell you this. I'm personally a fan of the Lightbridge technology, and then they rebranded it when they came out with the Phantom 4 and the Phantom 4 Pro. But I'm a fan of that communications technology over Wi-Fi. Now, obviously, an older drone, the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, it was a great drone. It used Wi-Fi. But then when you took the leap to the Phantom 3 Pro or the Phantom 4 or the Phantom 4 Pro, you notice that, at least from my experience, the quality, the consistently excellent quality of the FPV, the first-person view, the live video feed from the drone, it was optimal, in my opinion. It was better. But not to say that Wi-Fi is bad. I mean, we've got to look. We should look at this from the perspective of we're getting the smallest drone to date. And I know there's smaller drones out there, but we're getting the smallest drone to date from DJI, arguably the best, the most refined drone manufacturer, in my opinion. And I want to see competition, and we haven't. We've seen people try to compete, but we've seen multiple companies fail. And it's going to take a big player like an Apple or a Google or a Microsoft to try to come in and really provide DJI with some competition. GoPro couldn't even do it. And GoPro, I love GoPro. I love GoPro cameras. They couldn't even do it. GoPro Karma failed, unfortunately, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, we need some competition. Frugal says many Phantom pilots want a 360 gimbal and retracting landing gear, but again, I'm not against it. I don't think it's that much of a plus for a prosumer level drone. Well, and I agree. I think a lot of those things, and a prime example of retractable landing gear being kind of a sales gimmick. I mean, we've seen several drones. I'm not just talking about the Inspire. Inspire's not in my wheelhouse. It's too big. It's too heavy. I look at it as something that's for use by companies that have a huge budget that want to strap an ultra high-end camera to the bottom of it, which that's fine. It's not in my wheelhouse, though. But, there have been some other brands of drones. Like, we saw the Typhoon, and it had retractable landing gear. I mean, develop your own opinions there. But, the bottom line is that, aside from a cool factor, does it really add a lot? I mean, how many times, and I know it's doable, but how many times with your Phantom have you managed to get the landing gear in the camera's field of view? You probably have occasionally, if there's a gust of wind and you have the camera positioned in a certain way, but how many times does it really happen? Think about that. B. Hendo says, John says, I bet Apple is going to be the competition. And then B. Hendo says, I don't think Apple needs to compete. Well, I'm kind of on the fence about Apple because ultimately, think about it. If Apple did develop a drone, check out Apple, their recent WWDC Worldwide Developers Conference, and you'll see that they're really pushing this new product. It wasn't a new Mac Pro, but it was a new iMac Pro. So a multi-core, I think it's 18 cores, something insanely powerful. And they're gearing that system towards the creation of VR content. So it would make sense at this point in time if Apple also released a drone that could film VR 360 degree. I mean, why not provide your developers with a tool that they can take out and capture content and then use their hardware to create this new VR format videos? So, Proud Oregon Cat Mom says, hey, IrixGuy, hello. Sean Coonery says, hello. B. Hendo 15, it's a high-cost startup for someone who they're not even competing with to begin with. That's true. They're not competing, but it would be more of a complementary tool. If Apple did add drones to their product lineup, then that would be something that would likely enhance the sales of their upcoming iMac Pro that's geared towards VR video editing. So Joseph says, have you seen a Typhoon crash? It's like a yard sale. At least DJI Phantoms are quick fixes most of the time. Unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, mine crashed out of the box, meaning that the micro SD card slot on the controller was defective. Not that that's a huge deal, but when you try to update the firmware, it becomes a deal breaker because you got to use it. And then the other thing, the camera was absolutely horrendous. And I used the same 4K video editing workflow that I use for all my other drones, and I just unfortunately wasn't impressed. Fruitful says, sad GoPro Karma is a failure compared to DJI. There was so much hope, but it was total letdown. Lack of sensors, limited range, and its huge size killed it. Yeah, GoPro Karma was a victim of timing because they came out and they thought when they gave their presentation, and I thought it was a great presentation. They unveiled the GoPro Karma. I thought it was cool that also with the Karma you got the detachable Karma grip, which you can use handheld, which that's very nice, by the way. If you haven't used the handheld grip, it's very nice. That, in my opinion, on its own is worth picking up with the current model GoPro Hero 5. But the points you just made, those killed it. The size, and then the fact that they unfortunately after that, then they got a recall due to safety, so they all had to be shipped back. So, had GoPro been smart, in my opinion. And I forgot the icing on the cake, and that was that Mavic Pro was announced right after GoPro Karma, so it pretty much put them to shame because it was smaller, more lightweight, had a better camera without fisheye. So I think, I think GoPro should have just said, you know what, we failed with this, let's cut our losses, let's not re-release the Karma version 1, let's create something greatly superior or equal to DJI's current product offerings, and then let's try again. And hopefully they will try again, but I don't know. I mean, the fact that they didn't abandon the Karma 1 suggests that they may just be wanting to embrace failure in the drone space. I don't know. Jack Lucas Marr says, maybe Apple collaborates with DJI on a drone. Now, that's a good idea, collaboration. DJI builds a drone, Apple sells it under their name. That's brilliant. I like that idea. B. Hendo says, Apple sells DJI in their own stores, so I'm not sure what they could do. I'm sure they could sever that relationship if they wanted to. Jack Lucas Marr says, like Apple using Samsung displays in their phones. And actually with the Mac Pro, if you're going to get an external monitor for the Mac Pro, to my knowledge, your only option is a third-party one. If you're going to get 4K or better monitor, it's built into the iMac. So it's kind of weird. Their Mac Pro, they never even released an Apple-branded a standalone 4K or better display. Big Maine Coon Dog is watching as well. Very cool. Jack Lucas Marr says, yeah, I know, but if they did something like Google where the Pixel was really made by HTC. Interesting. Yeah, these are interesting thoughts here. But I think what we have coming this week, hopefully very soon, as soon as those sparks start to arrive, I think we're really going to see some other people step up because, DJI they own the drone space. There's no doubt. They own it by a long shot. So I just don't understand why the competitors are they're either sitting around doing nothing or they're executing, but they're executing so poorly that they have to, I would assume they would have to know before they even attempt to execute that they're going to fail. It's terrible. There's got to be somebody to step up and say, look, we got to compete and make something happen here. And nobody's done it. Nobody's done it effectively. So, Sean Coonery, he jumped on the table. He jumped on the unboxing table in the studio. B. Hendo says, I think the drone market is in a weird position. And that's a true statement, too. With the uncertainties associated with over-regulation, the negativity that the media are spreading. Because half the world doesn't like drones, or they think they're necessary, and the other half loves them. Very true. Frugal says, I'm guessing Apple won't get into the drone manufacturing business because of the negativity associated with drones and because of the ever-tightening regulations. Yep. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. We've got multiple reasons why some of the big players are, and you can see with GoPro. Look at what happened to GoPro. They released, let's just say it had been a good product. Even if it had been a poor product, the fact is that it was a safety recall. So I'm sure that was a political nightmare for GoPro. Adam says, have you ever built a drone? Actually, I have, and it was one of my earlier drones, and I wouldn't say built. Well, yes, to some degree. I'm getting a link to that right now. I'm going to get you a link here because I pieced it together. This was back before DJI had their own 4K camera. So I was using a GoPro Hero 4 Black to get 4K on a drone, and I was super excited about it. So that was the. Now this wasn't built from scratch, but it was a drone that I assembled some stuff and made it 4K capable with FPV. So it was, I guess you could say, sort of built, not truly built with a 3D printer like some people do, which is really cool. Biendo says, what's one aspect from the Spark on paper you're hoping is not a letdown when you test it? Well, let's see. That's a good question. The battery life, on paper it's estimated 16 minutes. Realistically, my expectation without having flown it yet, I'm guessing maybe 12 minutes or so in normal flying conditions, but I may be wrong. That's something I'm unsure about, and and then the spec about the wind speed that it can handle. I saw that somewhere, and I'm trying to find where I saw that. But that's the other thing. Joseph says your streams are great, informative, interactive. Stay true to this. I look forward to your vlogs. Hey man, 2 thumbs up, and Sean Coonery back there giving you a paw up. Hey Sean Coonery. Yep. He said, paws up. So, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm trying to get the lighting, and I'm going to get back. You can see back there my green screen set. I'm going to get that tweaked out and try to do some, what I want to do next with some live shows is a multicam, because I've got this control board in here. So, in theory, what I should be able to do is switch among multiple cameras. So if I'm doing like when I get to Spark, I could have a camera on the Spark, but then I could have the other camera where I'm face on video and just kind of rotate among those and other media content. So, Bieno says, what about vice versa? What's one aspect you hope is better than initially perceived to be right now? I hope the video quality, the 1080p, I hope that it's better than I expect. I mean, the fact that I'll be stepping back from 4K drone video is going to be hurtful. But the fact that I'm going to be stepping into a smaller, more lightweight, more portable drone, that'll be a positive. So I'm hoping that the video quality for me is at least tolerable, because ultimately what I'll do is when I take the video from the Spark and I put it into my editing software, I'll export it in 4K. So I'll upconvert the video to 4K, which won't be true 4K, but it'll be interesting to see how it looks. And that's what I'm hopeful for. I'm hoping that it'll look convincing enough to where I could blend, let's say I do a video with high quality 4K 30 or 4K 60 video, 4K 60 rather, from a Phantom 4 Pro, but then I've also got the Spark for some other shots from that location because it's smaller, more lightweight. I hope that the video quality of the Spark won't look greatly inferior to the other footage, if that makes sense. Fruitful says, in addition to my comment above from about Apple, there are fewer places to fly. It's very true. If it's not a place that where flying is banned, it's often a place to where you have, I would like to call them trolls. You've got the real world trolls, and they're just out there to cause trouble. They're like, man, what's that thing? And part of it's because they may be jealous because they don't have a drone. But the other part is, even if you said, hey, you wanna fly it, and they'd be like, no, man, I'm afraid of it, man. That's scary. So I'm hoping that that's one of the positive aspects of having the smaller and more lightweight drone, the Spark, is that when people see it, they'll be like, oh, man, that looks so cool. I think that's a fun thing. Something like that. And I think this negative perception of drones just really irritates me, because there's so many people, when there's a good thing, when there's momentum going, when there's an industry that's so innovative, there's so many people that are on the other side of the fence trying to destroy it. And that's the thing. I mean, all we can do is promote the positive aspects of this hobby, and showcase our safe and responsible drone use, and how fun it is. It's a great hobby. It's a great way to relax. It's fun for most ages. It's great, and that's what we need to do. Frugal says a hospital was just built 200 yards from my house. I just saw now there's a helipad. Do you know what that means? Yeah, check your no-fly zone. Yep, that's a bummer. But I guess the flip side of that is if you get sick, you can go over there and get some medicine or something. Paul Finn says, "Are GoPro finished?" I don't know. I've heard rumors that GoPro may be stepping away from a company called Umbrella, which is a chip manufacturer they've historically used for their camera chips. So maybe we're about to see GoPro innovate again. Maybe we're about to see GoPro release a GoPro Hero 6 that'll do 4K 60 or better. And maybe that GoPro won't be afflicted by fisheye. Fisheye, when you look at a GoPro video, it looks like you're in a bubble of sorts. Most people prefer the look like you get from a DJI drone camera. So it'll be interesting to see how they execute with the Hero 6. If they don't execute well with the Hero 6, I would say stick a fork in them, they're done. But if they do execute well with the Hero 6, that Hero 6 could then become a drone accessory. So in theory, GoPro at that point could create a better drone that can capture amazing video without fisheye, and that the market may react well to. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. I don't want to throw in the towel with GoPro yet, but I mean it's I don't even know. Let's see what they're trading at today. The GoPro stock. So they've been down the gutter. I mean, I haven't. I've stayed away from it. Let me see. Let's see what they're trading at today. Let's see. GoPro is at $8.42. A 52-week low of $7.14 and a 52-week high of $17.68. A far cry from when they went public, their IPO. That was a fun ride. Jack Lucas Marr, the USA has so many regulations on drones. I live in Australia and we can fly anywhere, just not around airports and crowded areas. Plus, there's no registration. Australia's a cool place, man. That's a place I got to go and obviously take my drones. That New Zealand. Paul Finn, regarding GoPro, what's left to do in that space? No one is watching the videos of guys snowboarding and cycling. I think there has to be a shift in what people are doing. Most people I know with GoPro cameras have one thing in common. Their GoPros are sitting in drawers. That's a good point, but there are still applications where a GoPro makes the most sense, like snorkeling, activities where the camera may get wet. And for that reason, I think GoPro is still a solid player. But to your point, people are losing interest in that. People love drone videos today. And for GoPro to not have a 4K or better camera option that does not have fisheye, that's drone capable, or that they have a quality drone that people would want to buy and attach it to, they're kicking themselves. They're digging their grave. I hate to say it. But maybe they don't care. I mean, Nick Woodman's got a big yacht now, so he's probably like, dude, I'm just going to chill, So, yeah, speaking of that, John, thanks for tuning in. I'm actually going to have to conclude this as well. Just want to give everyone an update. Check out epicdroneshow.com. I'm going to have all the Spark content there. And hopefully, optimistically, I hope I get my Spark Saturday. If I don't, worst case scenario, probably Monday. So stay tuned for unboxing, first field test, question and answer session. And I'll obviously bring it on a live show, and we can talk about the Spark in the studio. So as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. YouTube.com/IrixGuy, and share this video and any of my videos with others. And check out epicdroneshow.com for all the previously recorded all the previously recorded shows, all of your drones, all of your drone accessories, drone how-tos, and more. Y'all have a good day. Thanks for watching. Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.